As they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they said, "Come, let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven." And the Lord came down to see the tower which the children of men built. And the Lord said, "Behold, the people are one, and they all have one language. And this they begin to do. Now nothing will be withheld from them, which they have imagined to do. Let us go down, and there confound their language, so they may not understand one another." So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of the earth. And they left off building the city. The Illusion of Gaia, if you don't know, is a sequel to another game that I have already covered. I did not enjoy Soulblazer. I found its gameplay repetitious, its story concept a self-plagiarist inferior ActRaiser with a tacked-on love plot. Essentially, I didn't believe that the story stuff worked, and combat consisting of tracking down lifelessly, joylessly, slashing at simple enemies, camping their spawn locations until they stop. It was not a great foundation for a video game. This is the 26th Super Nintendo RPG I've looked at, and Soulblazer is currently in my bottom 5. So it may please you to hear that Illusion of Gaia is the superior game, and it isn't close, as far as I'm concerned. For one, you are no longer required to hunt down and defeat every single enemy, though they also didn't abandon this concept. Illusion of Gaia has no experience points or equipment. You raise your stats one at a time by defeating every enemy in a given room. You may defeat as many or as few as you want. It just depends on how hard you want to make your life today. The big innovation, though, unlike Soulblazer, where every enemy continuously jaunts out of these blue portal things only to be smitten down, enemies here have set positions, and outside the first couple areas are rarely as simple as even the most complex Blazer encounters. Not only combat, but the game at large feels more thought out. The singular attribute of Illusion of Gaia I admire the most is that it is 100% killer, no filler whatsoever. Everything is relevant at all times. I would put it up there with Chrono Trigger as exemplaries on how not to waste the player's time. Except for, I guess, this part, which is this absurdist joke the game plays. So you need to wait in this long line to gain entry to this shop. And I mean, a long line. It takes forever, and you need to manually, keep your place in line, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's surprisingly easy to screw up. And if you do, the game doesn't care. You need to get back to the end of the line and wait again. I love absurdity like this. I guess back to my point, Illusion of Gaia shuttles you from one location to the next. If you're expecting an overworld with a long list of places to go at any given time, like I was going in, well, this isn't that type of game. Soulblazer at the 11th hour required players to backtrack through every prior area to gain these MacGuffins. Here, something like that is not even possible if you wanted to. Once you leave a location and it's no longer relevant for progression, that's it. You can't go back. It's almost chapter-based. Think Shining Force 1, not Shining Force 2. It gives the game a real sense of flow and prevents players from looking at irrelevant areas in search of the way forward. It's completely on rails. The game will even often purge your inventory of no longer relevant items. I enjoy this and took the choice in stride, though if you're completion-oriented, it's fucking nonsense. Miss an enemy, there's no way to clean up. You can't go back. You will forever not have that upgrade. There are also these things called red jewels. There's 50 scattered throughout the land. Some are inside chests, others you get by talking to people, though a fair amount are hidden behind cryptic, just classic old video game crap you would never find out without a guide. We don't need to venture further than 30 seconds into the game to find our first example. Whenever you leave this specific cave, which a normal player would only do one time in a given playthrough, there is a random chance that a fisherman will be sitting on the pier and he'll gift you a red jewel. Go into the cave, then out repeatedly until he shows up. I didn't know about this until after beating the game, and as a result, of course I didn't get it. It's a good thing I don't care about collecting everything in a game, because after about 1 hour of playtime, you can never come back to the starting town. Meaning that this particular red gem, I almost can't believe how missable something like that is. If you didn't get the jewel, like, that's it. And this concept applies to every area in the game. There's similarly hidden jewels that you just wouldn't know about unless you have some sort of sick gamer sense or something. The worst part of all this is that having all 50, and only all 50, you need to get every single one, unlocks something really cool, and even contains some minor plot clarifications. So if a player is interested in this type of thing, a guide is completely mandatory, and that's a shame. That's lame. Almost as lame as our protagonist's telekinetic powers. Early on, your friend group is oohing and ahhing over your ability to wave your flute around to move statues without touching them. Classic setup. Chosen One has inexplicable psychic powers, but it's hilariously underutilized. Aside from a couple story moments, moving statues and items that enemies drop around is about the complete extent this is ever used for. It's like if you had Star Wars force powers, but instead of shooting lightning, or controlling people's minds, or doing cool stuff, all you can do is grab the TV remote. And only the TV remote from off the coffee table. If you want to grab the Xbox controller, no, fuck you. Can only get the TV remote. Many of my contemporaries have compared this game to Zelda, though I don't see the comparison as a welcome one. Dungeon designs in this. Look at the dungeons in Zelda, look at the dungeons in this game. They don't compare. Like, come on, it's not a fair comparison. The Illusion of Gaia is obviously vastly inferior in terms of overall level design. If you're expecting, like, a Zelda dungeon from an Illusion of Gaia dungeon, you're going to leave sorely disappointed. Illusion of Gaia essentially has two types of dungeon areas. You've got these interconnected overhead mazes, which are fine, and I don't really have much to say about them. They're the closest to what a would-be Zelda dungeon could be in this game, I suppose. I have a bone to pick with its contrast, though. There are just as many of these flat, pick-a-pipe, trashy frickin' mazes, and I can't stand these. This type of design just comes off as lazy. If you can't parse what I'm talking about, then let me explain in a little more detail. A good maze has you moving in all four directions, committing its layout and how everything fits together to a mental map in your head. It feels good to unravel these types of areas. Places such as the Diamond Mine, Sky Garden, and Moo. I have no quarrel with these. Our other type, though, consists of hallways with doors that lead to other hallways. Places like the Great Wall, Angel Village, and the Final Pyramid. These places suck. I can't stand this pick a frickin' door nonsense. It's like you're going around, you're going in the door, you're coming out the door. You gotta remember what door leads to what door instead of like remembering how things fit together. I can't stand it. You're not committing a layout to memory. Pick a door. Oh, it was a dead end? Well, fuck you. Blindly figuring out what sequence of doors to travel through is far less appealing than exploring these other levels. Here's our protagonist. His name is Will. I'm going to these portals. Touch the statue and... here's Big Mode. He's called Frieden, but I like to call him Big. You have the ability to transform into different forms while exploring dungeons. Everyone has different abilities, so you'll need to swap between them to progress, but generally you don't want to be regular, pathetic, little, annoying, smelly, frickin' douchey kid Will. Will, more like throw him in a landfill, more like get me some Advil because my head hurts. What? Anyway, each character gets different abilities. The first one you get is the ability to charge up and break down walls. Pretty cool, but again, I have a nitpick. Look at these two characters. YTF is Little Bitch Will, the one who gets this ability. You'll be playing the game as Big because he's cooler, he hits harder, it's easier to fight things. Then you find a wall that can be broken, but Big can't break stuff. No, that would make too much sense. You can charge up, smash through walls, but only like small Will. Does this bother anyone else? I might be the only one who freaking cares. I guess it really doesn't matter. Oh yeah, when you finally get to the last area, you can turn into this like gooey thing too. It's a welcome addition and a nice change of pace so late in the game, but it happens so close to the end that it's almost not even worth mentioning. Everything from here on out will spoil the pants. off of this game. So for an early conclusion, The Illusion of Gaia is good. A- tier. 16 hours, 55 minutes to beat. Here's the Mountain Dew can I hide in every episode, though I suppose this one's not really hidden now, is it? Alright, 3, 2, 1, spoiler time. Quintet loved to make games about the same general themes. They loved to examine what humanity is, mostly to this point on civilization-spanning macro-level stuff. In Soulblazer, their smaller attempts to focus on individuals were, well, laughable in my opinion. It's slightly better here. Will has his group of friends. Throughout the course of the game, each of them has an arc. Simple ones, yes, but nobody ends up in the same place as the same person. Throughout the game, one by one, they each find their place in this world. Even Kara's pet pig, which, when this thing showed up, I doubt anybody would have guessed that his fate would ultimately be roasting on a fire and then into your stomach. Yeah, that's right, you eat the damn pig. Though we're still not creating like a character-driven masterpiece here. These aren't memorable all-time peoples. Everybody feels somewhat robotic. Characters don't have their own voice. If you play a Final Fantasy game, it's like you don't need colored text boxes. You almost don't even need the name saying who is saying what. Characters' personalities are laid out well enough where you always know who's who. You can describe each character by their personality traits. In this, yeah, different stuff is happening to each character, but aside from Kara, it almost feels interchangeable. A lot of stuff happens, but it's all played so matter-of-factly. This approach, of course, has its own strengths and weaknesses. Our characters don't introspect, nor do they have strong personalities, as mentioned above, so they sort of just let themselves become irrelevant. And this isn't a game like Earthbound, where party members rarely converse. No, Illusion of Gaia has characters constantly chattering away to one another. And honestly, I don't think the game is any better off with the character interactions. It doesn't really add a whole lot to the overarching narrative. It's the world, Gaia let's call it, that takes center stage. Like Quintet's other games, there's a heavy emphasis on examining society. It's a game about a more evolutionary advanced human. Oh yeah, that's why Will has psychic powers. He's like a human, but he's higher up the evolutionary curve. It's about him preventing this goddess creature from impeding the progress of civilization. That's the main conflict of the game. There's an all-powerful being manipulating humankind, forcing them to stagnate from a literal comet in the sky. So you go up there, kick her ass to usher in the modern age. The game ends with you and your friends in a modern high school. You can almost see the villain's point though. It never has any dialogue, so we never have a grasp on its true intentions, but we can put some pieces together. Why should these people be trusted to become so powerful as a whole? Let's go to the town of Phrygia. Fairly early on, you're brought to this town. Your friends and NPCs build it up as some beautiful bastion, a testament to civilization. Though when you go down a couple back alleys and all of a sudden it doesn't look so nice. Keep digging and you'll find a hidden market selling slaves. Literal slaves in a Super Nintendo game. One of your friend's parents have built up this 19th century looking European town with their company. But you show up there and guess what? Yeah, it's built on the back of slave labor. Everywhere you go, everything beautiful. Humans in this game are incapable of creating without destruction. Illusion of Gaia states that humanity is capable of great things, but it's also selfish and willing to treat other people like property because, as one NPC puts it, some are born into misfortune. Even our main character, in order to progress at a certain point, the game forces our protagonist to turn in an escaped slave. If you're a game that needs to point out human failing, slavery is pretty high up the historical list. And I commend this game for not only containing these elements, but making it a core focus. Everywhere you go, you're confronted with this reality. Our characters almost don't even react to it by and large. It's a thing that the player needs to internalize. The Illusion of Gaia is also a rare game that lands on the opposite side of the whole encroaching humanity trope. I'm sure you've played a game where a peaceful civilization or a band of woodland critters or whatever are being corrupted by the evil drum of humans and technological power and progress. Something like Mother 3 or Attack of the Friday Monsters or I guess Final Fantasy 6. Those games are like reject modernity, embrace the simple life, but Illusion of Gaia decidedly takes an opposite stance. It says that society should progress despite the human failings. The simple life was filled with horrors. Living is better now than it ever has been. Well, that's all I got. Never trust anyone who needs a haircut. Till next time, goodbye. Oh wait, actually, I'm not done. What the hell is up with this part? We're in this water town. You can walk around, talk to people like normal. So you meet this couple. The girl's pregnant, and they both seem pretty happy about it. Then at night, you walk onto this raft, and they're playing a game called Russian Glass. It's basically Russian roulette. There's a line of drinks laid out, and one contains lethal poison. You and a competitor take turns drinking until someone fucking dies. A few questions, because it's not really set up ahead of time. Why would anyone, let alone our protagonist, agree to play this? They don't say that you get anything for winning, it just seems like a fun thing that they're doing. You just kind of stumble upon it, and it's not even like a side attraction. The game makes you do this. You have to do this. It's a requirement to progress. So because Will is psychic, the game tells you ahead of time what drink contains the poison. So it's not even like an honorable victory. You were preordained to win. You take turns and it comes down to the last glass, and it's the other guy's turn. So everyone knows that it has to contain the poison, but it doesn't matter because it's his turn, so he has to drink it anyway. So he does and fucking dies. Like, he actually dies. And then the gut punch, it turns out he was the pregnant lady's husband, and like, why? Why is this in the game? Like, how? I don't know, it almost just seems like it's messed up for the sake of being messed up. You just killed this lady's husband, but yeah, sure, you can use my camels to cross the desert. After all, it's not like my dead husband will be using them.